The U.S. airdrop of supplies to the Kurdish refugees begins, and the Atlantis astronauts fix a glitch that threatened the launch of the Gamma Ray Observatory. This is the CBS Evening News. I'm Susan Spencer, filling in tonight for Connie Chung. Good evening. The United States today began a massive emergency airlift of food, clothing, and supplies to Kurdish refugees, thousands of whom are in desperate flight over the snow-covered mountains of northern Iraq. The move follows mounting criticism of President Bush for not doing more to help the Kurds in their bloody fight against Saddam Hussein. Wyatt Andrews reports.
Still defensive about accusations that he encouraged but then betrayed the Kurdish rebels in Iraq, the president today insisted he has studied all of his public comments and has concluded that he never promised military aid to those who might oust Saddam Hussein.
I went back and reviewed every statement I made about this, every single one. And there was never any implication that the United States would use force to go beyond the objectives which we so beautifully have achieved. None.
Kurdish leaders, now reeling from the revenge of Saddam, agree there was no specific promise of military help, but after the president's repeated calls for Saddam's dethroning, they insist, they couldn't imagine he meant anything else.
And I don't know of any other interpretation other than one which be a clear statement that Saddam Hussein ought to be removed and the Iraqi people will be supported in their uprising against that terror.
The Kurdish question clearly nags the president, especially as he tries to declare final victory and wind the war down. Especially, too, because today was the National Day of Thanksgiving Mr. Bush picked to celebrate the end of the Persian Gulf conflict. Church bells chimed at cathedrals and monuments across the country. But the president, giving thanks from his home church in Houston, recalled that while the war might be over for most Americans, its trauma rages on in most of Iraq.
And yes, we pray for our enemies that a just peace may come to their troubled land.
As part of the effort to end the American war, Mr. Bush insists that as soon as the UN formalizes the ceasefire, American occupation forces in southern Iraq will be out within days. However, in contrast to that promise, the president also admits that if asked, he may keep some U.S. forces in the region to participate in a UN observer group. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Houston.
As the troops depart, the stream of refugees fleeing Saddam continues. The president of Turkey said today that 300,000 now have made it to the Turkish border, and that despite frigid conditions and a lack of food, he expects up to 1 million to try. For a few of them, help came today. Alan Pizzi reports.
U.S. cargo planes began dropping supplies to Kurdish refugees stranded in the mountains on both sides of the Turkey-Iraq border today. But the combat rations and other items represent only a tiny proportion of what is needed to solve an immense problem. 500,000 refugees are stuck in this area alone. When a tractor stopped to wait for a vehicle ahead of it to navigate a treacherous bend, the refugees riding in it handed a few bits of bread. The human gesture was a mistake. Within seconds, the farm wagon laden with bread disappeared under a writhing mass of people so desperate for food that adults nearly crushed children in a frenzy to grab what they could. The food was part of an effort to bring help to Iraqi Kurds clinging to life and faint hope and security a mile inside Turkey. Until today, they had nothing. Some had been without food or water for days. The aid available now is pitifully small. Truckloads of food, blankets, and clothes collected by Turkish Kurds. The problem of getting it up into the mountains is huge. Dirt tracks hacked out along cliffs awash in mud are often passable only by people willing to act as human donkeys